You have probably seen or heard some quilting acronyms and was wondering what in the heck do they mean. In this video, I will tell you the most popular ones plus some more. Hello, I am Jackie, and I want to personally welcome you to my channel, Jackie Russell Creates. I give tips, tricks, hacks, and techniques for quiltings of all kinds of projects. If you want to learn more, hit the subscribe button and that notification bell. And let's get started learning these quilting acronyms. This kind of drove me crazy when I first started to quilt, or really getting into quilting. Everyone was using these acronyms. I had no clue what they meant. And to be honest, I kind of was afraid to ask what they meant. If you're new to quilting or self-taught quilter like I am myself, this is something you're want to pay close attention to. It can feel intimidating when you open a pattern and there's all these terms and these acronyms in there that you don't know what they mean. To an established quilter who has been doing this for years and years and understands all of this, it's just another day at the office. Don't pay attention to that one. I just made that one up. A lot of these quilting acronyms can feel like they are made up too. So I want to help you learn some of the most popular quilting lingo. Maybe you've heard quilters in groups or online talk about that they're working on their BOM. That means block of the month. What is it? Where you get one design either by email or you purchase the whole thing at one time, but they give you a little bit at a time, and at the end of the year, you'll have an entire quilt or 12 blocks. You may have also hear them talk about R&R. No, I don't mean railroads. It is a round robin. This is done in a setting where the whole group or quilt guild will work on a quilt at one time. Everyone makes like the center block, and then they swap, and the other people add the borders to the blocks. Sometimes the whole guild will work on one quilt. Sometimes every single person in the guild will end up with a quilt by the end of this. It depends on what type of group you are working with. Maybe you've heard or you go to your LQS, your local quilt shop. Have you heard people talking about working on a QAL or a SWAP or an oak? What is this stuff that they're talking about? A QAL is a quilt along. That means everyone works on the same pattern at the same time. You are all doing it together, even if you're not in the same room, or you can be completely on different sides of the world, but you're working on the same pattern. A swap is exactly like it sounds. You are swapping blocks you have made with other quilters, or you could be swapping fabrics. You're just swapping items. Oak. It means one of a kind. I don't know why quilters can't just use full words when we're talking. It's not like we're saving that much time anyways. In the pattern, you may see YD or YDS. That's just short for yards, the length of the measured fabric. If you take the yard and you cut it into 4 equal parts, you have a FQ, or fat quarter. If you see an F8, that is a fat eighth. You're just taking your fat quarter and dividing it in half. WOF, width of fabric. You may see RST or RT, that is right sides together or right sides touching. Very rarely do us quilters do wrong sides. We don't work with wrong sides together because that's just silly. Sometimes. You may run into some different techniques. HST means half square triangle. It's a very simple block, but it's very versatile. You can do so much with it. What about PP? PP is paper piecing, which is not to be confused with EPP, which is English paper piecing, a very different technique. HP is hand piecing. So that is sewing all your pieces together by hand. HQ. No, it does not mean headquarters. It's hand quilting. What about SID? stitch in the ditch. FHS, freehand sewing. FMQ, free motion quilting. SNW, stack and whack. A video's coming soon. It's a really fun way to get your blocks. And don't forget about SA, seam allowance. Now let's talk about tools. What's your favorite machine? You may have a DSM, that's a domestic sewing machine, or you may have a FW, that is a featherweight. You may also have an LA, that's a long arm. You may take your quilts to a LAQ if you don't do the quilting yourself. LAQ is a long arm quilter. There is also a QAYG, that's a quilt as you go. That is when you quilt the individual blocks as you piece them together. Then you sew those blocks into the quilt. I see this one a lot in Facebooks. QOV. It stands for Quilt of Valor. It's an organization in the U.S. that accepts donated quilts made by men and women. They then distribute them to servicemen that are in the military or veterans that have taken the time to fight for our country and have made that sacrifice. When you go to a Quilt Me Up, you may be asked to bring a BSK or a BSS. Once again, not sure why we can't use full words here, but it's basic sewing kit or basic sewing supplies. So these next ones we don't talk much about. They're kind of a quiet shh. But we all have them. You may hear people talking about working on their PhD. No. Not their degree. They're working on projects half done. Then there is WIP or WIPs, works in progress. There's PIPs. That's projects in progress. What about UFOs? Some of us quilters are crazy, but no, we're not talking about the aliens in this. It's unfinished objects. And several of us have a disorder called FOB, fear of binding or fear of basting. It's interchangeable. One of my personal favorite is a wombat. A wombat is a waste of money, batting, and time. This is a project you just can't finish no matter what. I'm guilty. I have a few of those. A sable. I bet many of you can relate to this. It is a stash accumulation beyond the life expectancy. Last but not least, another one I don't understand why we can't use full words. One of the most fun things that you can do as a quilter is a FART, fart. Go on a fabric acquisition road trip. Yeah, I would love to meet whoever came up with that one. I hope you have learned something from this video, got some understanding of those acronyms. Please comment below and tell me some of the acronyms you have seen or things that have baffled you, like why do we even have an acronym for that? Let me know some of the other shortcuts that you have seen in some patterns. For more tips, tricks, and hacks, check out this playlist right here. Until then, happy quilting, my friends.